Next week, Paddy Dingle launches a desperate bid to rescue his shattered father, as Beowulf's emotional turmoil reaches its darkest point yet. Haunted and overwhelmed, Bear returns to the place where Anya was laid to rest, hoping to find some peace. But with the police closing in and determined to detain him again, Paddy faces a race against time to save his father before it's too late. An insider reveals that Bear's mental condition has deteriorated beyond anything seen before. Paddy remembers all too well how badly things ended the last time his father spiraled into depression, and he refuses to let history repeat itself. Having only just escaped incarceration, the thought of Bear being sent back behind bars is unbearable to him. After checking himself out of hospital, despite his recent injuries, Bear wanders along a lonely rural road, disoriented and terrified. Paddy, who has spent the entire night searching, is frantic and increasingly hopeless as he struggles to locate him. The situation worsens when a detective arrives and informs Paddy and Dylan that Bear has violated his bail terms and attacked Jacob during a hospital encounter. The news leaves Paddy stunned, especially when he learns that Bear will be kept in custody without bail once he is found. According to the source, Paddy feels trapped, believing he will lose his father no matter what happens. After everything Bear has endured, prison seems like the worst possible outcome. Paddy knows his father has changed, but he has no idea how to reach him. Determined not to give up, Paddy continues searching and eventually discovers Bear in a distressing state beside Anya's vacant grave. Speaking gently and acknowledging his father's pain, he persuades him to return to the car. Although relieved to have found him, Paddy understands he must turn Bear over to the authorities, a decision that could mean years behind bars. The insider adds that Paddy realizes he cannot handle the situation alone. His new strategy is to place his father in a secure psychiatric facility instead of prison, though it remains uncertain whether the police will accept this solution. Running out of options, Paddy hopes this plan will provide the care Bear desperately needs. However, investigators remain focused on solving Ray's killing, and Bear continues to be their primary suspect. Now, the question remains whether Bear will get the help required to survive this crisis, and whether the authorities will show compassion after everything he has endured. Emmerdale hints at growing suspicion after Arthur Thomas violently attacks his mother, Laurel Thomas. Next week, Laurel begins experiencing alarming after-effects from a head injury she sustained during the altercation with her son. Although she insists it was an accident, questions remain over whether she will reveal what really happened. After reportedly falling down the stairs during the confrontation, Laurel is released from hospital but soon requires additional medical care as her condition worsens. When Manpreet Sharma starts probing into the details of the incident, Arthur grows increasingly anxious that the truth may surface. According to a show insider, Laurel is desperately attempting to shield her son despite his inexcusable actions. However, those closest to her sense inconsistencies in her explanation, and her uneasy behavior suggests she may even be frightened of him. Laurel maintains that she lost consciousness and tumbled down the stairs, refusing to change her account. Even her closest confidant, Nicola King, remains unaware that Arthur was responsible for the injury. Still searching for answers, Nicola presses medical staff about Laurel's mysterious blackout while confronting Arthur directly at the hospital. Terrified that his violent outburst will be uncovered, he nervously waits to see what will happen next. Sources suggest Laurel places the blame squarely on herself. She is consumed with guilt over past decisions, particularly regarding her relationships, and believes her son's troubled upbringing is partly her fault. This guilt drives her determination to protect him at all costs. Back at home, Laurel attempts to downplay the incident, but recurring dizziness alarms Gabby Thomas, who fears a more serious underlying problem. Witnessing his mother's fragile state, Arthur becomes overwhelmed with remorse for what he has done. Concerned relatives arrange for Manpreet to visit Laurel at home. Once there, the doctor quickly sends the others out of the room, sensing that Laurel is concealing the true cause of her injuries. Insiders say Manpreet's calm and compassionate approach may encourage Laurel to open up, especially if she fears further aggression from her son. Yet it remains unclear whether Laurel is prepared to expose Arthur's behavior. Despite everything, Laurel clings to the hope that her son can return to the kind, gentle boy he once was. However, confessing the truth could drive a permanent wedge between them, leaving her torn between protecting him and protecting herself. Emmerdale sees Paddy Kirk pushed to the brink as he comes up with one final, desperate strategy to protect his father. Portrayed by Dominic Brunt, Paddy has only one focus: keeping his dad safe at any cost. But that mission becomes increasingly complicated. Although Beowulf has been charged with manslaughter rather than murder, detectives are convinced he didn't act alone. Paddy's claim that he was away at a conference is flimsy, and investigators aren't buying it. Bear remains deeply traumatised by what happened to Ray Walters, a role played by Joe Absalom. Consumed by shock and guilt, he appears close to a complete emotional collapse. Meanwhile, D.S. Walsh refuses to let the case go. Convinced that Bear could not have moved Ray's body without help, she intensifies the pressure, determined to expose the full story and force Paddy into confessing. Fearing this scrutiny, Paddy has avoided getting proper mental health support for his father, worried it might draw further attention. Later in the week, Bear makes a reckless decision. Struggling with withdrawal, he heads to the hospital in search of medication. The trip leaves him shaken and even more fragile than before. Worse still, by doing so, he violates the strict terms of his bail. Disoriented and vulnerable, Bear wanders along a deserted country road, narrowly avoiding passing cars while trying not to be seen. Unaware of his father's whereabouts, Paddy spends the entire night desperately searching. His panic escalates when D.S. Walsh arrives with devastating news. Bear has breached his bail conditions and allegedly attacked Jacob during his hospital visit. As a result, he will be remanded in custody once located, something Paddy knows his father would never survive. After an exhausting search, Paddy finally discovers Bear in a heartbreaking state, overwhelmed with grief beside Anya's vacant grave, a sight that confirms just how close his father is to breaking point. Cain Dingle faces a life-changing choice about the farm and his future in Emmerdale. Cain, played by Jeff Hordley, is on the verge of losing everything: his marriage, his health, and possibly even his life. In a cruel turn of events, Butler's farm could slip through his fingers as well. The usually unbreakable village hardman is battling one of the most devastating crises he has ever faced. He has been diagnosed with prostate cancer, while his wife Maura Barton, portrayed by Natalie J. Robb, sits in prison after being framed for murder and human trafficking by the manipulative Celia Daniels, played by Jay Griffiths. Determined to prove Moira's innocence, Cain pours all his energy into clearing her name while keeping his illness secret from almost everyone, confiding only in his granddaughter Sarah Sugden, Katie Hill. With Moira gone, Butler's farm is deteriorating rapidly. A falling tree soon damages a barn, putting the sheep at risk and worsening the already dire situation. At the same time, wealthy home farm heir Joe Tate, Ned Porteous, is scheming to take control of the property. He previously manipulated events by using Robert Sugden, Ryan Hawley, to plant incriminating evidence, ensuring Moira would be blamed for Celia's crimes. The constant pressure is pushing Cain to his limits. Seeing her grandfather overwhelmed, Sarah believes she has found a solution: stealing luxury cars to generate quick cash and distract him from his diagnosis and Moira's imprisonment. To her, it seems like a practical way to keep the farm afloat while giving Cain an outlet for his anger. However, upcoming episodes reveal just how disastrous this idea truly is. Another looming danger comes in the form of a possible bovine TB outbreak, which could destroy the farm entirely. After previously stealing Joe's car, Cain firmly tells Sarah he wants no further involvement in theft, but she struggles to resist temptation. When she spots an expensive sports car outside the village hall, she impulsively decides to take it. Unfortunately for her, she is caught in the act by her husband, Jacob Gallagher, played by Joe Warren Plant. Furious that she is risking both their futures, especially his medical career, he demands an explanation. Bound by Kane's secrecy about his illness, Sarah cannot tell him the real reason. Jacob's anger soon spills over onto Kane, confronting him for encouraging Sarah's criminal behavior. Matters escalate further when Charity Dingle, Emma Atkins, also lashes out, furious that he would endanger his granddaughter's freedom. Unable to reveal the truth, Kane withdraws, refusing to show his vulnerability. Later, while brooding alone, Kane is approached by the only other person in the village who knows about his diagnosis, Liam Kavanagh, played by Johnny McPherson, whose unexpected support may force Kane to confront the reality of his situation and decide what truly matters for his future. Emmerdale airs weeknights at 8 p.m. on ITV1 and is available for streaming on ITVX.